I was 410 pounds on 3 prescription drugs and not healthy at all. This was a standard meal that I ate growing up. Hamburger Helper. You guys have Hamburger Helper?
Just let it run and let's go listen.
Fruit Loops. Coca-Cola. Man, oh man, Coca-Cola. They owe me money. I've spent so much money with them over the years. Or what I like to call now, garbage. Right? Thank you. This is the way we ate. My brother Kevin, my sister Beverly, and I all pretty much ate the crappy garbage, right? Just like most people around the world. This is what my mama ate. This was back in the 1980s. Fat-free ice cream, rice cakes, and ranch dressing has been fat-free as well. On a lot of salad, a lot of just fat-free, and Diet Coke and all this kind of stuff. My brother Kevin and I used to take those rice cakes and say, let's put some like peanut butter and chocolate on it and see what it tastes like. It was still gross. So, growing up in the 80s, we saw this food pyramid. You guys copied us here in Great Britain. You copied the same thing, and now y'all went to what Eat Well plate, is that what it's called? And we have a My plate. Because we were scared of fat, right? Totally scared of fat. This lady here said, my low-fat diet really works. The fat hangs lower every day. But then in 1999, something interesting happened because I had eaten that way for a long time because that was the way I grew up and learned how to eat. 1999, my brother Kevin was in trouble and didn't know it. He had 3 heart attacks in 1 week at the age of 32. Nearly killed him. It eventually did kill him at the age of 41. And part of the issue is he wouldn't eat fat, and thus that's what we learned. Growing up, we learned fat was bad, so you don't eat it. But the problem when you don't eat fat is you're hungry all the freaking time, right? And angry, because you don't realize that that brain up there needs so much fat. It really does, because it doesn't function properly if you don't. That's why you get moody. You don't eat for a while. It's not so much that you haven't eaten, it's that you haven't eaten fat. That's why you see the vegetarian vegans online kind of going ballistic, and I wonder how much of it has to do with they have no fat in their brains. And that's not I'm not dissing them, I'm just saying literally, think about that. That's why they have Durian Rider on YouTube going crazy, right? You guys know who Durian Rider is? No? Oh, okay, you're not missing anything. So, I actually lost quite a bit of weight on that no-fat diet I was just telling you about. This whole deal here, I lost a good amount of weight in 1999 after seeing my brother have the heart attacks that almost killed him. This is not anything very well. So, it almost killed him. So, I lost quite a bit of weight, but Christine here, I'm not going to blame Christine, but she said, can you go to McDonald's and get me what was it, a Big Mac meal, supersized with a Coke? I'm like, sure, if you'll let me have that. Just this one time, right? You know what happened next? I binged and gained back all the weight in 4 months because I was hungry all the time. So then let's go, and I gained back then some weight. So let's go to 2004. I had felt like I was frustrated, that there was nothing else I could do. If low fat was the answer, then I'd rather be fat and happy than thin and unhappy. That was the way I was thinking. Until 2004, when this happened. I had an epiphany. That's a laugh slide for you guys. There you go. So I had this kid, I was substitute teaching at the time, and he made this very poignant quote to me when I was writing the lesson plan on the board. He said, man, Mr. Moore's really fat. And he was a chubby 6th grader. Yeah. No. Not fun. Then I had another epiphany when I tried to climb a rock wall at a fall festival and I couldn't do it. I was watching all these adults, all these kids do it. I could not do it. And I'm like, what in the heck is going on? Then my mother-in-law, Christine's mom, gave me or she gave me books for Christmas every year. Anybody ever get diet books from your mother-in-law for Christmas? I did every year. I had a big sack full of them. But this particular year of Christmas 2003, she gave me Dr. Atkins' New Diet Revolution. I thought this guy was whacked out of his mind. How do you eat less carbs? Where do you get your energy from? How do you eat more fat? That sounds like a heart attack waiting to happen. And yet, Atkins had really been out there for a few years. In fact, this is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It was one of the questions. The nutritional philosophy of the Atkins diet suggests restricting what? And it was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, so I thought that was pretty cool. So I went on this Atkins diet and did pretty well. I actually changed my life. That's how you know who I am today. If you follow my work, it would have never happened without that experience. So I ended up losing a total of 180 pounds. A little advanced, there we go. And I came off of all 3 of those prescription drugs. And now I have a healthy life. Get my way. You can't back up easy, I notice here, so go slow. Healthy life. There it is. Okay, get my way. Okay. So this started my health journey in earnest. I began blogging and podcasting, speaking with some of the brightest people in the health business, like the guy you just heard in here. Dr. Jeff Gerber's been on my show a few times, the Live and Lead a Low Carb Show. Everybody here listen? Yay. I became like a sponge, and still am, trying to soak in all the health information. I noticed some trends starting to pop up doing this show over the years. Back in 2010, I actually learned about paleo for the very first time. Interviewed people like Rob Wolf, Mark Sisson, who was on yesterday, and many others in the paleo primal community. And I actually started attending some of the paleo conferences in America. Most notably, the very first one was the 2011 Ancestral Health Symposium. And that's when I was like, maybe I should apply some of these principles of paleo into my low-carb lifestyle. And so I did. Then in June of 2012, I started an N=1 experiment testing for blood ketones after reading that book, The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Performance, by Dr. Steve Finney and Jeff Bullock. And they talked about measuring for blood ketones. I've never heard of blood ketones. I'd only keto on the sticks all these years. But they were like, blood ketones, definitely do that if you want to kind of know where you stand. So I started experimenting with it. Anybody follow the experiment as I was doing it? God love you, a few of you. So I learned all the various intricacies of what ketogenic nutrition offers along with a paleo lifestyle. So it wasn't just low carb for low carb sake, it was now low carb with intention. The intention was real food, the intention was making sure I'm producing enough fat burning fuel, which is what the ketones are. So here's a Google trend of paleo, and you can see since 2009, 2010, it's gone way up. In fact, it's the #1 Google search term probably for the last 3 or 4 years. But check out keto. This is ketogenic. And if you heard my talk yesterday, you'll see that low carb has kind of waned and fallen down, while ketogenic has done this huge trajectory just in the past few years. And it was so funny because my publisher didn't want to do a keto book. Oh, nobody's interested in that. Yeah, nobody's interested at all, are they? So you do the most Googled diet search terms of 2014, and of course paleo, #1, ruling the roost, but #2 is low carb ketogenic. So we have this kind of showdown, and of course, doing what I do, I dibble dabble in both of the worlds, ketogenic low carb and paleo. I'm here at, this is ostensibly kind of a paleo conference, and it's unfortunate that there's this friction. It's like a boxing match. I just want to dun 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 dun. One side, we have low-carb ketogenic. On the other side, we have paleo. And there's this battle between the two camps, which perplexes me to no end. And you're going to see why here in a second. So let's look at what low-carb keto people think about paleo people. Y'all ready for this? They only eat lean meat. They use honey, maple syrup, and other sugars in everything they make. This is what keto, low-carb people, I've actually had them tell me this. Starches like white rice and potatoes are just completely normal for everybody. It's only expensive grass-fed organic foods. You can't eat anything else. and they're young, and everybody there does CrossFit and lifts weights. That's what keto, low-carb people think about paleo, right? So let's see what paleo thinks of low-carb keto people. Don't kick yourself if you see yourself in some of this. You only eat artificial sweeteners in everything you eat. It's all low-carb products. You just can't live without your products, you low-carbers. You still eat foods with vegetable oil. Shame, shame, shame. You have a glucose deficiency. We heard Paul Jaminay's talk yesterday. I think he actually used that very phrase. And they're lazy and never exercise. Look at them. They're all fat. That's what some, I'm not saying all, but that's the kind of perception from the general community of what paleo thinks of low-carb keto. So my question is, why not both? Why not both? So here are 8 ways to do both keto and paleo to enhance your health. Now keep in mind, it won't be for everybody, and you'll see in my 8 that it's for certain people, but it disappeared. I got it. I think it unplugged. Oh, he's got the help.
There it is.
The tension's building. There it is. Okay. I just want to see you walk up here about halfway and have to go back. So. You might be keto and paleo. I'm just kidding. 8 ways to do keto and paleo to enhance your health. And the first one seems like a well duh, but you'd be surprised how many people in my community of low carb still don't do this. Just eat real food. It seems so elementary in the paleo community because you guys are like, yeah, we just call it food. But in low carb, they're still eating a lot of the crap, the Atkins bars and things like that. So that kind of imagery of some low carbers does hold true. But just eat real food. That's the basis of, even before getting your macronutrients right. I think if you just start with the real food, then work from there. But real food should be the basis. I don't think any of us are advocating for get this paleo, keto, low carb, this and that and this. Maybe on occasion as a treat, or if you're traveling, those things can help. But eating real food truly should be the basis. In fact, my co-author on cholesterol and keto clarity, Dr. Eric Westman, I try to push this one to him, telling people to eat real food. And he tells them to go and do this at McDonald's and just throw away the bun. I'm going, that's not really food. So it's kind of a battle even within the community. And that's okay. I mean, I understand where he's coming from. He's a practitioner trying to deal with people that are obese and diabetic, and he's trying to get their macros right. But I say get their food right first, and that's first and foremost. Then you need to check your blood sugar, number 2. These are things that you can do to make keto and paleo a match made in heaven. You got to check your blood sugar. How many of you regularly check your blood sugar? Raise your hand. I love you guys. Half the room raise their hands. The other half, after we're done, after you leave Heath Unplugged and you're all fired up to get your health in order, go buy a glucometer. It will be the best health tool that at home, right, Dr. Jeff, if you had a patient come in and said, all right, I've been tracking all of my blood sugars for the past month. Here they are in the morning, here they are post-prandial, after eating. You would love that, because then you can see exactly and what they're eating and how it impacted them. If you think that starch is safe, test it. Test it. That's the only way you really know. And so checking blood sugar is really a key to knowing, can you tolerate that many carbs that the paleo community says you can? If you can't, then you probably need to go a little more low carb and or keto. Here's the big one. Number 3, realize that people with insulin resistance need this more than anybody else. Insulin resistance sucks, because I've had it for a long time. It's healed a whole lot from that 410-pound man I was, but it's still there, and I still have to battle it daily. I have to keep my food under control probably more than most people. I would love to eat a sweet potato, a whole sweet potato often. I would love to have honey and maple syrup and different things. I just can't. I just know that about myself. And the sooner that paleo people understand that there are some people that can't do just paleo and see results, they have to take it another step further. That's where paleo and keto become a match made in heaven, especially for type 2 diabetics, insulin resistant, pre-diabetics. All those people really need this. Number 4, start to become a believer in the importance of macronutrients. A couple of years ago, somebody said, when I was talking to someone on social media, they said, Paleo is macronutrient agnostic. Anybody heard that term before? Macronutrient agnostic. And, okay, that's great. That sounds all beautiful. Macronutrient agnostic. Just eat real food, all the real foods you want. Bananas are real food, have that. I think some of them need to become believers in macros because they do matter. Get the food, real food down right first, but then you do have to turn to the macronutrients. And if you're not paying attention to how carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are working in your body, then you need to. You need to learn that really fast and become a believer. How many people kind of track their macros at any point? Have you? Yeah. So most of you are already kind of doing that. Number 5, produce ketones through regular periods of fasting. Even paleo people are producing ketones when they're fasting. Even Paul Jaminet with his safe starches is having an 18-hour window or 16-hour window where you're not eating. Guess what is sustaining them during that 16-hour period? Oh yeah, ketosis. And so my next book actually is going to be Fasting Clarity. You know Dr. Jason Fung, he's in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. He and I will collaborate on a book all about fasting, not just 16-8, but also alternate day and even these extended fasts. If you've been following me on Periscope, I've been doing these really long fasts. 17.5 days was the very first one I did, and then 6 days right before this trip. And we're going to do a lot more fast. It definitely can help adjunct to the ketogenic diet. But fasting is something even paleo people are doing and advocate for. And that's something that make it a match made in heaven. Number 6, consume more saturated and monounsaturated fats. I don't hear many people in the paleo community outside of Lauren Cordain circa 2002 or whatever when he was pushing lean meats. Lean meats has been out of paleo for so long. Even Lauren Cordain himself in a book called The Paleo Answer in 2010 said, I was wrong about the meat, the fat thing. You need to be eating the fattier cuts of meat. And yet, that persists now. Even my co-author, Dr. Westman, thinks that lean meats is still a part of paleo. I'm like, it hasn't been a part of paleo in a long time. And Rob Wolf never pushed lean meats. Diane Sanfilippo, these are some of the top people in the paleo community writing books. And they're all pushing fats, healthy fats, coconut, avocado, butter, ghee. Number 7, realizing nutritional ketosis is a completely natural metabolic state. And that's one of the things, you heard some fear-mongering yesterday from one of our American speakers, and he said that ketogenic diets are dangerous, they're going to cause this harm and that harm. And he's just wrong. There's no harm in it at all. Like I said, when you're going through that 16-hour window, when you're not eating, you're actually burning ketones. That's how you're fueling your body. And so it's a completely natural, normal metabolic state. And the sooner that people understand that, the sooner we can move on from, well, you can eat paleo, but don't you dare get into ketosis. No, do both if you need it for the right circumstance. And then the very last one, and probably the most important point, is we are not the same. Do what works for you. If you follow my work for any length of time, then you know that's been my motto from the beginning. Always find what works for you and do that. And who cares how somebody else eats? If you can eat starches and you're healthy and do it that way, yay, I'm happy for you. If you can't, yay, I'm going to support you. I think either way, it's just, can't we all just get along? Right? Why can't we be friends? So here's the things that keto and paleo can agree on and put together and coalesce behind. I think this is a good list that people can embrace. No refined sugars and grains, right? That seems like a pretty duh. Eating healthy sources of dietary fat, that makes sense as well. Processed foods are blatantly unhealthy. Can I get an amen, anybody? Amen. All right. Nourishing your body through whole foods, pursuing greater health through nutrition. And the way we're doing things now just ain't working. Would you agree that we probably agree in both of those communities that that's the core foundation? So why don't we come together and coalesce behind that and we stop eating crap, right? This is a slide from Damon Gameau. Anybody seen That Sugar film? Here it's in theaters here in Great Britain. So carbonated drinks, refined carbohydrates, added sugars, and processed foods, This is crap. So forget about low carb, forget about paleo. Why don't we do the low crap diet? Right? You can clap that. Clap for the low crap. There we go. So that's all the slides I have for you guys. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to take any questions. I told you, let's do that really fast. Not everybody at once. There's somebody right there.
Hi, Jimmy.
Hey.
What was I going to say?
I'm making you nervous, Em.
Yeah. It's very well you telling us all in this room. We all sort of know about all this. That's why we're here to listen to you, to confirm it all. But, you know, I just want to know, how many lives have you actually changed for the better? Have you any idea, like, for really, you know, obese Americans, you know, when we take the kids to Disney, we see them, don't we? You see the big families, they're all big.
Yeah.
Have you changed any of their lives for the better?
So,
and how many? Would you know how many?
That would be incalculable at this point. I've been doing this nearly a decade. I know that my reach with my social media and podcast and everything that I do, writing books, is about 1 million a week. So I would hope that an inkling of that million that follows me has had some kind of life changing. But I get 500 emails a day.
That's brilliant.
And probably at least half of them are all, you changed my life. And it just blows me away to hear that. So that's why I do these talks. That's why I like going around the world speaking, because I think this information is too important not to get out there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you comment on fat
Oh, wait for the microphone.
Could you comment on fat loss rather than fast? Is regular fasting better than the fat loss fasting that was recommended before?
I'm not understanding the question. What?
There was a book, Fat Loss Fasting.
Fat loss fasting. I'm not familiar with it. Who's the author?
Danny Carpenter. It was like eating a high...
Oh, the Fat Fast Cookbook is what
yes,
you're talking
yeah.
about. So what are you asking? What do I think about it?
Yeah.
I think it's unnecessary. I think fat fasting in general can be a good tool if you're having trouble getting into ketosis. That's a good way to kind of jumpstart it. Christine and I actually did a full-on fat fast, what was it, last year, Christine, or maybe a year and a half ago, and we were starving. It was uncomfortable. So I think some people might be suited to do it pretty well, but others it may not do as well. So I think try it. It's a good hack. If you follow my work, you know I'm like all for find what works for you and do that. But it didn't work really well for us. I lost a lot of weight on it, but I was starving the whole time. For those of you that don't know what a fat fast is, it's 200 calorie meals, and it's about 90% fat, and the rest is protein and carbs, very little carbs. And so it's like, was it 1 ounce of macadamia nuts? That's your meal. Ooh. And so then you eat 2 hours later, 2-3 hours later, another 200 calorie meal, cream cheese on celery stick. Ooh, I'm so satiated. Not. So yeah, I'm not a fan of them, just from our experience, both of us. Christine didn't even lose any weight. You actually got worse eating just 1,000 calories of the fat fast. So I think it's just kind of tinker and test. If you want to try it, go for it. But if it stinks, move on. I actually did a lot better in a full-on fast, not eating anything at all except the body fat. And I didn't have any hunger until I kind of got stressed, and that's when the hunger came on. So try it, see how it does. Anybody else?
Hi, Jimmy. I wanted to know, do you still monitor your blood sugar every day, and what range do you try to keep it in? Is it like below 100, or is, I know you say everything's individual, but...
Yeah, so not while I'm traveling, because I know better. When I'm traveling, my blood sugar and blood ketones just go whacked. It just goes all over the board. At home, I try to keep it between, or definitely under 100, ideally in the 80s or lower. And if you have, you know, during the fast, actually got down into the 50s, 60s, which is really low, but the blood ketones weren't really high. And the theory is that as the blood sugar goes down, the ketones step into place of that blood sugar because you don't have to work the insulin as hard. The pancreas is hard to make insulin, so blood sugar is not really needed in there because you're shifting from that sugar being your primary source of fuel to your ketones, back ketones being the primary source of fuel. So yeah, I do test pretty regularly when I'm home. I just know better than when I'm on the road. I know it's going to be it's probably 105 right now, something like that, and my ketones are probably 0.4, 0.5. Why, when traveling, there's a lot of theories out there. Jeff, definitely chime in. She's asking why, when you travel, maybe ketones go wacky, blood sugar goes wacky. I mean, there's any number of reasons why that would happen. I would think it's the cortisol response primarily that's then raising blood sugar.
Stress, as you already alluded to, and then just changing your routines.
Yeah, we're on a different time zone, so, and then we just changed an hour back home, so we'll get home and go, what time is it? So I'm sure that has an effect on the body for sure. Anybody else? Back in the corner back there. Bless you. Salud y dinero.
Can you just comment again on the following a ketogenic diet for a very long period of time? How many people are doing that, whether they have seen any negative effects? We heard again from Paul Jaminet yesterday about the glucose deficiency and how this can affect wound healing and so on and so forth. And I'd be interested to know if there anybody else saying the same thing, is it just him? What's your view on it and other experts in the field?
So yeah, he's the only one that I'm aware of that uses that actual phrase glucose deficiency, which is nowhere in any medical literature, by the way. You look in if you go on PubMed, type in glucose deficiency, there's no studies that have that in there. It just doesn't exist. He made that up out of his head. And I love the guy. I mean, I think he's a nice guy, but I think he's misleading a lot of people. And there's a few people in the paleo community that have kind of echoed his message. There was a whole talk at Paleo FX this year about the dangers of a ketogenic diet. And it's just unfortunate that there's all this negativity, and unfortunately the research that they're looking at is usually of epileptic children who've been on a ketogenic diet for their disease. Well, they're already very sick kids, and so they're trying to extrapolate, well, it happened to these kids, thus it's going to happen to a relatively healthy population of adults. And that's not a good extrapolation of the evidence. I want to see the randomized controlled clinical trials that show all these things that they're talking about. I've been doing ketogenic for a decade. I know Dana Carpenter's been on it for a decade and a half. You probably have a lot of patients that have been on it for a very long time. And trust me, being insulin resistant is extremely hard to stay in ketosis. I have to work my butt off to stay in ketosis. So maybe through the insulin resistance, I naturally come in and out at a good rate that makes it healthy for me. But I try to stay in it as much as possible.
With all these emails you're getting, you're not getting people coming back and saying, I'm following this diet and look what's happened to me. So you're getting huge feedback.
Yep.
Are you seeing anything in that at all?
Yeah, so you have a mix. You have a lot of people that say this has been the best thing I've ever done. I've tried every diet under the sun, and it's helped with all these health markers. The funny ones to me are, I'm feeling better. I'm off of my cholesterol-lowering medication. My joints don't hurt anymore. I get to run and play with my kids. But I've only lost 2 stone. I'm like, let's back up. Tell all that front part again and leave off the weight loss. Why are you not happy? So I think a lot of people obsess about the weight. And I weigh more than I want to. But my health markers all look good. And at the end of the day, I think that's really all that matters.
Where's the one more question? I'm sorry. I'll have another one. Or give someone else.
Oh, she's raising her Periscope video. Back there.
Well, just talking about the ketogenic diet, it makes sense to me because when we were, thousands of years ago, Paleolithic times in the desert and the jungle, I don't know, that's what we were made to do, weren't we?
Yep.
We were made as human beings, as an animal, that's all we had anyway. We had to be ketogenic, didn't we? That's why it works well for us, and I just sort of confirm that. Because if you think about it, there wasn't a 7-Eleven on every, corner when we first came to the earth and God made us. So it has to work. And I try and I'm finding it really difficult to tell people, like friends, family, if you're not going to eat what you were supposed to eat, what God meant we were actually meant to eat, then obviously you're going to get sick. How do I tell them that? How do we? It's common sense, isn't it?
Well, it's common sense to you and me because we've been educated, and that's why I remain so passionate about the subject. I didn't get to over 1,000 episodes on my podcast because everybody believes it now. It's going to take a little while, and I think some of the things that Jeff talked about in his talk is so indoctrinated into our society across all the cultures. I mean, you go anywhere in the industrialized world, and they still fear fat. It's changing, and the science has already changed. The science has already shown this is already, saturated fat's not the enemy. It's already shown that, but statistics show that it's going to take at least 10 to 20 years for that to get to the culture, and I think it might even take longer because this one has been so indoctrinated into us. It's why I'm glad to see paleo #1 in the most Googled diet search terms. That's why I'm glad to see ketogenic low carb #2. It means people are searching. They're looking for answers, and I think what we need to do is articulate it in common sense ways, like you just said. Hey, look, how do you think caveman survived? How do you think our ancestors survived long before grains were a normal part of our diet? How did they survive? When between kills, how did they survive? They had to survive somehow, and it was ketones. And I think that's just a logical way to kind of break it all down. And now we have this abundance of crappy garbage. The low carb diet is what I'm advocating for, and I think the sooner we get to that, the better off we'll all be. Got time for any more? Nope, we're out of time. Thank you guys very much.